Hello everyone. Today I will be reviewing One Flew Over the... shit. Hello everyone. Today I will be reviewing One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. Kasai? Whatever. This book has a really long title, as you can see, so I'll just shorten it down to Cuckoo's Nest, I suppose, whenever I'm talking about it. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is Ken Kesey's debut novel, which was released in 1962, and 60 years later, this book is still considered one of the greatest books ever written. This book is fucking phenomenal. As a reader, it made me think of so many just things that are happening and just internal conflicts about what's right and what's wrong, and are these people in the position to be doing this? Are they in the position to be doing that? And I just found it so endearing. And at the end of the day, as much as it sounds, you know, really grand, this book is kind of just an analogy for life and everything that happens. This book was also made into a movie in 1975 with Jack Nicholson. That is a great movie. It's definitely one that I think matches the book, if not slightly surpasses it, just because of Jack Nicholson. But then again, I'd say the book is probably just as good, because you can imagine Jack Nicholson in the role, you know. Also, if you haven't read this book, a spoiler warning is in play. So my edition of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is 281 pages, with the literal smallest print that you'll ever see. This is actually ridiculous. So it isn't an overly short book, but it certainly isn't big by any means. This book is paced really well, it's never boring, even if it doesn't really find its feet until the second half of the book. What I mean by that is that this book focuses on a lot of setting up, and in the first half, it's mainly just devoted to that kind of setting up, and then shit goes down in the second half, and by the end of the book, it works really well for me because all aspects come back into play, and it makes the ending a lot more impactful than it would have been if the first half had been skimmed down at all. This book is told from the perspective of a big old deaf-mute Indian American who is in the psychiatric ward as a long-lasting patient. He's faked being a deaf-mute, and because he doesn't really like talking to people, you know. The ward is run by Mildred Ratched, a very cold, heartless, manipulative bitch, and all the patients are so scared of her because of her power. If she sees you having too much fun playing cards or just doing anything, she takes that pleasure away from you. She confiscates the cards and goes, it's for the greater good. You have to trust me, I'm a nurse. And if I'm going to be honest, calling her a nurse, I'm not even going to call her a nurse because she doesn't do anything medical. She's just there to keep everyone quiet and miserable. And all the orderlies just wink a blind eye at it because it keeps the ward, you know, nice and quiet. So they kind of just ignore it. But if I'm going to be perfectly honest, the orderlies aren't too nice either. They're kind of cunts. Ratched never tries to help anyone overcome their illness or their mental state. She just exposes everyone's personal issues to the group, which to them, being in the ward, the group is their life, and that is very damning for them to have some of their deepest and darkest moments exposed by her in what she called group therapy. And if you don't like the way she runs it, okay, it's your choice. I'm not responsible for this, but I'm going to give you electroshock therapy. It's your decision, not mine. Not mine. She's so sadistic in the most interesting way. She never yells or screams, and she's pretty quiet and meek. But the effect and the power that she has over everyone else is always felt, even when she's not there. She isn't your stereotypical evil person in authority. I'm reading this book at the moment called Under the Dome, and it has the kind of like evil politician character in Big Jim Rennie, and he's very evil, but he's evil in a completely different way to Nurse Ratched because he's loud, he has the say, he has the power over everyone, and Nurse Ratched has the power over everyone. It's just that she's so quiet and manipulative about it. She's just a miserable middle-aged lady who gains enjoyment out of exploiting people and treating them like shit. And she doesn't feel guilty about it because she views them as a bunch of crazies, not a bunch of actual people. She's just like, oh, they're just inmates. They're no use to real society. So she can put all her misery and just shit on them. Anyway, the actual plot kind of comes in when Randall McMurphy arrives on the world, who, by the way, faked insanity to escape prison labor. And when he comes in, he takes a stand against her and tries to get the other inmates to do the same. As Jack Nicholson says, "That nurse, she's something of a cunt, don't you think?" McMurphy and Ratched are basically opposites. Ratched wants order, McMurphy just takes things as they come. Ratched wants civilization, McMurphy wants to have fun. The contrast is so different, and even though McMurphy is a criminal, he's essentially a metaphor for the part of us, in all of us, that doesn't stand for shit, but sometimes doesn't, come right out and say it because we're too afraid of the repercussions. But because he's a prisoner, well, essentially a prisoner, he's in a mental ward because he's faked being crazy to get out of prison, he doesn't really have anything to lose. And it's a little bit hard because I don't want to call an alleged child rapist inspiring because, it just kind of sounds wrong. But in the context of this book, he's the part of us that's kind of like hiding inside all of us, but never actually comes out and is open to the public. And this book is just so eye-opening for that. And going back to Nurse Ratched, she doesn't do everything herself. She basically has 3 little henchmen doing half of the more cruel stuff that she's just letting happen, and she's just on the sidelines just admiring it. But her and the way she runs the ward is the other part of us, the negative part, the part that wants to stay simple and safe in everything that we do and never give anything else a shot. She has a plan and basically a routine of how these inmates should be treated, everything, what time they go to bed, when they should be allowed to talk to each other, when they should be kept separate, when they're allowed to have cigarettes. We, as people, aren't going to get far in life with that mindset. And before Randall McMurphy came on, the years and the days and the months and the weeks and the hours and the minutes and the seconds just kept ticking over for both her orderlies and the inmates with nothing. We are going to stay on the psychiatric ward, do the same fucking shit every day with no happiness and, let's face it, no reason to live. Our life is our own psychiatric ward, in my opinion. It's what the metaphor is. We can choose to try branch off from it and escape it, or we can just stay on it and just let the authority take over. And now the ending, and I want to talk about why it's just so perfect. Now, what McMurphy does, getting a bunch of prostitutes in for a party on the world, is it a silly thing to do? Yes. But it isn't the actions, it's the implications and the understanding of the morals and ethics of what he's doing. Having a bunch of prostitutes on the ward getting pissed goes against everything that Nurse Ratched, or just Ratched I want to call her, stands for. And you spend this whole book just seeing how she operates, and then by the end it's just such a big climax and contradiction to how she runs everything, and it's so satisfying. It is their ultimate stand-up to Ratched. And even when she catches one of them, a very scared person who's actually voluntary in the ward because he can't handle, being outside in real life, he can't handle the real world, she just berates him, and she never raises his voice, but she just threatens him and blows him down to a smithereen. He'd finally found his voice, and he just, like a balloon, he just gets deflated so quickly, and you realise how much power she has. And the guy that she caught, Billy, is so ashamed and embarrassed of himself that he tried to do something out of the ordinary and what Nurse Ratched wouldn't call appropriate behaviour, that he just kills himself. He slices his own throat open, and it's again that kind of power of us when we want to try something new but we slowly back out. That's who Billy represents. I find that really interesting. And then after that, Ratched just pretends as though his suicide was nothing more than an inconvenience, and that she's like, oh, I'm the one that has to clean it up. Everyone else, just go on with your days as normal. Just pretend that this never happened. And that's the turning point for McMurphy. When McMurphy realizes that she has essentially just killed someone by not allowing him to do anything with his life, McMurphy attempts to strangle her, but he ends up failing to kill her when the orderlies knock her out. And then the worst part of this book is the fact that Nurse Ratched orders a lobotomy on McMurphy, which is where they stick like a needle. If you don't know what a lobotomy is, they stick a needle through your eye and chip out bits of your brain. And it was supposed to be, it's not used anymore, thank fucking God. But one of the things it was supposed to do was to help people with mental illnesses and stop their acts of violence if they have sudden mood swings. It's supposed to stop that, but a lot of the time it just rendered people catatonic. And this one that Nurse Ratched ordered on McMurphy, she said that it was about his violent mood swings that he attacked her with. She put it under that kind of scheme, but in reality it was just to render him catatonic so he has no reason to live. And it's just such a shame. It's really when McMurphy ends up succumbing to her, it's so upsetting, because that part of us that we really, really want to stand out and go do something with our lives, like McMurphy just wanted to do, it's gone. However, there is a silver lining with this, as that most of the voluntary patients have checked out of the ward, noticing that they have it in them to stand up against the wrongs of the real world and just stand up against evil, which is nice. But Chief, the guy that's narrating the story, ends up having to mercy kill McMurphy before escaping so that Ratched didn't have the pleasure of ruling his life forever, which was a really nice act. And then Chief breaks out and escapes himself, finally able to face the real world. It's a real bittersweet end to the story, and I think it works really, really well. The main message that I took out of this book was that sometimes you can do your best to make other people happy, sometimes you can just do so much and it's your real passion to make other people and yourself happy. Sometimes you'll be rewarded for it, other times you won't, and it can seriously backfire. And holy shit, me and every other person on this planet can think back to so many times that they've tried to do just nice things for people, just to help them out or do nice things for yourself, and it just completely backfires. And that's what this book touches on so well. And it really is just kind of an allegory for life, because we're going to continue doing those good things. Sometimes we'll be rewarded, sometimes we won't. At the end of the day, we just have to keep a positive faith through it. There is not a chance in hell that I'm going to give One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest anything less than 5 stars. This book is a masterpiece. It still holds up today. I'll be very, very surprised if there's a time in the future when it doesn't hold up. It's a treasure. It's really, really good. Give it a shot if you haven't already. Thanks so much for watching this review. I'll see you later. Again, read the book. It's very good. Bye.